About food this afternoon because tomato prices are surging across markets in Ghana following a supply disruption linked to last week's deadly attacks on Ghanaian traders in neighbouring Burkina Faso. With at least 8 traders killed, many importers have scaled back the operations, triggering a shortage that is already hitting consumers hard. A single tomato now costs 5 Ghana cedis. Consumers, particularly food vendors, warn that the situation is already affecting the operations. Traders say the uncertainty surrounding cross-border transport has disrupted their regular supply chains, compelling them to prioritize long-standing customers and reduce the quantities sold per buyer in order to stretch the limited stock available. Hannah Odame has more in this report.
Yes, I'm toast a short time and toast war. So say na ye ku omo no enti na omo ntumi nkọ na omo de bi beba no. So you kana sunje ba ho omo na wo omo de bi beba be ye.
Auntie Baby J is saying that there is abundance of tomatoes, but then it's not in Ghana, it's in Burkina Faso.
And they say adru Burkina Faso and toast. Now so nansa omo kokra na omo koba. Okoba we ko etimi hwie no 180 70. But they say no moko ya kwashi yankofo. And they say no bibia to tona kwemu a ebeba mo mbenya ne sede omo pe no enye se ya hyada ene e ton abode ama wo mo.
So she is pleading with consumers and those who come to buy from them to understand them when they mention the prices.
Actually, the price itself is very difficult because when you see the quantum that they gave it to me as a 50 cedis. It's very hard, but how am I going to do?
Yeah, I 10 cedi crab. Yeah, how about who the fuck 5 cedi bin afabla? Was it 35?
Fitimi kwa la ben na me start be ton to so say ne boy din timi ton. Ne boy din dodo. It was 45 million dem ko an.
Bi no be tama case ne ba nti ama wo kodwom kra wo bre ansa na wonye bi. Even kra say wonye customer wo to bi ono ho a. Wo do kra wo ma wo bi.
On fa ma wo.
O ma wo kra. Because won to be on wonti ebi ne wonti won ma just say wa to be na kwanta na ma wo kakra bi first no ntosu no ho no me to be say 200 kura betumi dey manager isu be say 2 days but ne am to enu rampo kura me to 300 kitikiti even am dey for 1 day.
Let's head to Kumasi now, where the shortage of tomatoes and the rising prices of ones available are hitting local eateries and restaurants, with operators struggling to secure enough for cooking. My colleague Irabna Akwe visited a local restaurant in Kumasi, and here's what she found.
The tomato import tragedy has really shaken them, and they are scared to go back to Burkina to import cocoa. So now the prices could, they're already up, and currently I'm here at a chop bar called a Fie chop bar, and we spoke to the owner of the chop bar, and she was saying tomatoes that she bought for just 800 cedis a couple of weeks ago is now about 2,000 cedis. Tomatoes is a major ingredient in most of our foods, and it could possibly affect their business. Let me speak to her and find out what she can say about that. What's saying and saying 800, say 2,000. Na esi da ben na esi sa no so uhun sing.
Last week I started esi na me ho akire pa ntosi ane eto na 800 no se se okoto times 2 times 3 inti no yentimi ento ntosi no this time the esra ban na pa se o ma bambofo ni ntosi fo ma na chi ene driver fo ma na chi driver fo me ma no ene ma no ebi wona okowu aja na yire ne ma ontimi nkoze se ame ho kire ye pa anti esra ban ne yi so mo antosi fo ma na o ma driver fo no na bi nso ye so visa choba na ye ne yentimi ntu ye ne manim ontimi nkotum si ya tuntosi muze si a wo kotum enti afeti ye pa ti esra ban ne se onye ho bibi ma ye na ye nso ye ne se mu aye din de ye ne ma de entimi ntum ba ba fo ma de na chese ye nso ye ho ato ye kakra. Esra buying pa why so mo antosi for ma no ye say ye na ye choba say de ne o mo ankwa ma ye ntu ye nya bi nya aduane.
So she's basically saying the government should strengthen security so that the tomato traders can easily go and come back and bring tomatoes. As for her, she can't increase the prices of her food, but then she really hopes that something is done about it very soon so that she can be able to sell and buy tomatoes at the previous price that she used to buy them. I'm about to speak to the seller here at the Efienifie Choba. Mpacho betimi abenye kakra. Mpacho now say tomatoes no ehun ayedin for some time now. Ukwadwoma e affect okwan ben so.
Affect bebre because your madam dey scam your class say nkodi dwa. Enso ba bia first by your quiet me nyan kakra kakra bi de toto e marketing kitibi. But you say enso ba bia enso yen Inti de kakra meka ne say yesra ban ne say sene Burkina president ayama ehonum na ya akono na obi atimi ehonum aye free obi atimi nya tumi to ade kama no yesra ban ne say omboaye na yeso ye ha no woma ne nya akono bebi omu ye ntosi no obetimi amo mu na providing enema na omutimi de aye ntosi na ma ntosi na aba form am yetimi ato ntosi no na de bibia ye de ye nkwan ye de stew ye de bibia wo ya nkwan na se ntosi ni ma enye de ye to ye ntosi me madam ompe de aproplo opede eye kama ede nti ye aduane no ye fere se wokokokokora obesa aba abedi nti ono ompa de fo nti ye koto ntosi na ono ompe de aplo nti ye sra ba na se omboa ye na oma ekwan so enye boko emaye ye sre na why.
She's also pleading with the government to do something about the trading in Burkina, because right now when they are given money to go to the farm, to the market to buy the foodstuff, they are not able to be within budget.
So that's the situation in Kumasi. Back here in Accra, though, my colleague Gemma Pierre has been finding out how tomato shortage is affecting eatery owners who rely on tomatoes for food preparation. Here's more in this report.
Is a popular food joint here at Kokomlemle, and tomato is one of the major ingredients that she uses in preparing her dishes, so from stew to soup and all the other meals here, she uses tomatoes. So following the shortage or concerns that there's shortage of tomatoes on the markets because of the attack in Burkina Faso, I'm here to have a conversation with Auntie Jane to find out from her whether she's experiencing that when she goes to the market and how that is affecting the prices of her food.
Ebini hokra, ebini obi tama case neba nse ama uko jomkra obre ansa na unyebi. Even nkra se unye customer utobi ono ho a udu hokra o ma obi.
Onfa ma o
ma okra because un tobi ono ho nti ebini ho nti o ma je se wa utobi na wakwanza na ma o kakra bi.
Inti first no na Oto tomatoes say na sisi ano sisi how much do you buy it for?
First no ntosi no ho no me to be say 200 kura me to me the manager is be say 2 days but me am to enu rampo kura me to 300 kitikiti even am there for stew for 1 day.
So for this stew that you prepared, you used 300 cedis to of worth of tomatoes.
Yeah.
And it's finished. The 300 cedis that you bought is finished.
Yeah, but tin tomatoes in the manka, but tomatoes na kitty bio. Small, but and do best cup we crab back on 300 no. And you say no when any way more. Bibi kitty be. And see ya never consider near the Jenny and I say near my ansana what to me tomatoes and sana we used to now what to be ansana open.
So how are you pricing your food now? Its price isn't the same.
Me too. They send me 7 on the sun. I'm honest. Yeah. Me person me question will be able 20. Sun a price in it.
See how I affect you.
Oh. Well, idea you say beba, but as I say, oh my customer ne o mamunko. Until I say who say who bet just be big kakra one. No to me. Yes sir.
So you heard Auntie Jane. Previously, she used to prepare, or she used to buy 200 cedis worth of tomatoes for her food, to prepare her food. But now, because of the shortage of tomatoes on the market, she has to buy 300 Ghana cedis of it, and that is not even enough and so she has to mix it with onions and other things to be able to get the her signature taste, and that's affecting her. But she hasn't increased the prices of her meals, so she's losing at the end.
And Ghana's reliance on Burkina Faso for fresh tomato imports has grown even stronger, with nearly 99.6% of tomato imports coming from Ghana's northern neighbor. In 2024 alone, Ghana imported approximately 12,900 metric tons of fresh tomatoes, valued at $22.3 million, of which $22.2 million came from Burkina Faso alone. And joining me in the studio to break down the implications for the sector is member of our research desk, Caleb Ziblim. Caleb, give us a breakdown of Ghana's tomato sector.
Yes, Ken. So Ghana's current tomato sufficiency, or the amount of tomatoes we produce that can meet the national demand, is 38%. So very basically, if Ghana needs about 100 tomatoes to survive, the farmers and the local industry provides only 38 of that. So about 62%, more than half of Ghana's tomato needs are imported. And then if you look at the data, majority of that comes from Burkina Faso. The next slide shows the difference between Ghana's demand and Ghana's production. So
right.
National demand is 1.3 million metric tons, and we are doing 500,000 metric tons. So the country needs 1.3 million, but then we are doing 500,000. So that's a significant gap.
Yeah.
And the remaining gap, that's in red, it's 700,000 metric tons, almost 800,000. And that's what we need, that's what we import mostly from. So we fix this shortfall either from our neighbors in Burkina Faso, sometimes from the Netherlands and some other European countries.
From the Netherlands, you say?
From the Netherlands.
I see.
Mainly from the Burkina Faso, because the proximity and all of that. When you look at the value, in 2024, we imported $22 million worth of fresh tomatoes. And then almost all of that went to Burkina Faso. That's for fresh tomatoes. And the majority of our imports are actually processed tomatoes, where we have cubed tomatoes, some tomatoes in vinegar, and then processed like tomato paste and all of that. We have $77 million worth of that.
Right.
So this is not a small figure. So together it's about $100 million of tomato imports into the country. And you can see from the trend, 2024 was the highest we've seen so far. 2018, we did 61 million. And then from there, we've hovered around $50 million. So 2024, what we are doing, $100 million worth of importation of fresh tomatoes and also processed tomatoes. Again, we are in this problem because majority of the fresh tomatoes come from Burkina Faso. And then the situation we had there about a week or two ago, where some traders were unfortunately killed, resulting in traders not being able to go to Burkina Faso again. And usually, Ghana should not feel the pinch so soon, because it's just almost under a week or so ago that this happened. But then the traders are, scared that in a month or two, more traders cannot go and get tomato from Burkina Faso.
Right.
They are rationing the tomato they have available now. Some are increasing prices so that in case tomato prices go up on the market, they can purchase it and restock later on. So there's a sort of short in the market, but then mainly because traders are, hedging their bets. They don't want to release all onto the markets, and then they are trying to hold back a bit. So if you look at the importation in Africa, in 2024, Ghana was the highest importer of tomatoes in Africa. In 2024, we're the highest in Africa, and then we dropped by, we're about 30th on the African markets, but then in 2024, we are first in Africa for the country that imports tomatoes the most. Again, we have to understand from the government side what they are trying to do to fix the situation, because we have periods where there's a glut of tomato in the markets, and if you go to the markets, we see that prices fall within a certain period, the rainy season and all of that. So we can produce tomatoes in the country, but then the main problem is that we cannot store it. We don't have silos, we don't have storage facilities where we can keep the tomatoes fresh for a long period of time. We also have processing factories where once the farmers have excess in supply, we can then go and process it into paste and all of that, because from the data I showed earlier, majority of Ghana's imports is actually from processed tomatoes, with this 77 million of that in 2024. So if we have a glut in the market, we can channel that into processing to reduce the burden. And again, if you have about 99% of your imports coming from just one country, it's very significant, because if there's any problem in that country, it means that Ghana's security is at risk. You can call this a national security issue, because once you are sourcing almost 90% of your imports from one country, it means that if there's anything wrong happens in that country, Ghanaians will feel the pinch. So we have to understand what the government is doing to diversify tomato importation and also ramp up the tomato production in the country, because currently Ghana produces just 38% of what the nation needs for tomato consumption.
Caleb Ziblim with our research desk. Thank you, Caleb. And while tomatoes are in short supply due to the killing of 8 Ghanaian traders in Burkina Faso, a pepper glut has hit Zari, a suburb of Bolgatanga. Some pepper farmers are complaining about the lack of a market for their produce, putting them at risk of post-harvest losses as their harvest waste away at the farm gates without buyers. My colleague Albert Sorry joins us via Zoom with more. Albert, and while tomatoes are in short supply in many markets, Zari is experiencing a pepper glut. What is driving this supply?
So these farmers have been on the catchment area of the Via Dam. The canals go there and they get water supply to do dry season farming. So they've been there since the dry season started between December last year and now, growing pepper. Now it's time for harvesting and they have a lot of pepper on the farms. Unfortunately, it appears that the market women do not even know that they have the produce there, let alone to go there and buy. So they used, an opportunity to call the media attention to it, because they were getting worried that if nobody knows about their produce, they could experience severe post-harvest losses. And this is why they drew media attention to their plight, which drew the attention of John Dumelo, the Deputy Agric Minister, and he paid them a visit earlier this morning.
And are traders able to transport the excess pepper to other regions facing shortages, or there are logistical challenges?
Exactly. In the case of these farmers, you will have to depend on the buyer to come and buy it from the farm, and then the buyer will then decide how they want to transport it. So a lot of the times, you have people going with tricycles, some going with Kia vehicles, vans, etc., to buy from the farm gates. In the absence of that, it means that the farmers themselves would have to look for means of transportation. Now, assuming they are able to even get the pepper out of the farms, then they will have to expect people to readily buy the produce from them, which then becomes another challenge. And so that is the situation that we have.
Albert, you mentioned that the Deputy Agric Minister, John Dumelo, is in that particular region assessing the situation. What really has he been saying?
He's been assuring the farmers that government takes their concerns very seriously and they are going to do something about it. He mentions particularly what recently happened in Burkina Faso, and he says that this is something that they are going to take a cue from and put measures in place to ensure that by next year, traders from Ghana would no longer have to be traveling to Burkina Faso to purchase tomatoes or even pepper for that matter.
Albert Sorry is our resident correspondent in the Upper East region. Thank you very much. We can now listen to the Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, John Dumelo, when he went to that particular region.
Some diseases that are affecting, especially tomato farmers, nematodes and so on and so forth. And so these are issues I want to address, because from end of this year or the next dry season, we want to make sure that almost all the farmers come on board fully to be able to stop our going to Burkina to buy the tomatoes and so on and so forth. And so I'm happy to be here today in Upper East, most especially Zari, where I've engaged the farmers. And moving forward, definitely their concerns. Well, I think what they're going through, one is about the canal. Some of the canals, the water is not flowing through, and so that one we deal with that. The second one is rehabilitation of some of the irrigation dams. The third one is also some of the diseases that is affecting them, and the fourth one is the market. And so these are the issues that they've raised, and these are the issues that government will definitely be dealing with as soon as possible. The thing is that is to help them to get the fertilizers on time. We are trying as much as possible to get for them to get the fertilizers just before their planting season or just before they apply the fertilizer. And these are the concerns that we've raised, and these are the concerns that we are going to definitely look at. We just want to make sure that, like I said, by the end of this year, almost every farmer is happy because they have good produce, they have good yield, they have good prices for their goods, and everybody's happy.
Any news for a farmer who feel like situation?
No, they shouldn't withdraw because, you know, we are coming to establish also what do you call it? Farm service, not farm service centers, farmers market across the regions and most especially across the districts, where everybody can come to, the produce comes directly from the farm and it goes to these centers and people come and buy it. And so there'll be a lot of demand for pepper, onion, tomatoes and other vegetables. And so most of the farmers shouldn't give up at all. This is the best time to be a farmer. And then also we are coming to establish mini processing plants across some of these farm growing areas. And so here, for instance, if we set up like a pepper processing factory or a tomato processing factory, which is just close by, and so on and so forth, we'll be able to help these farmers get immediate market for their goods. And so they shouldn't give up. This year they should go in even ×2 or even more, because government would also be distributing free fertilizers to the farmers across the country to help them reduce their costs. I've heard from the farmers, and I'm now going to hear from the traders as well. You know, it's not good to listen to one side, and so I've listened to the farmers. I'm going to listen to the traders, and then we'll find a common ground to see how best everybody's happy, to see how best the traders come in on time, they give good price, and to see how best the farmers also give good quality produce to the traders and then onward to the consumers. And so the next meeting I'll have is with the traders as well. It's a good suggestion, and it's something that we'll definitely look into, because if you look at the whole insurance industry, it's capital intensive, and it's something that we are definitely looking into. Yeah.
Okay.
You just had the Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, John Dumelo, there. Now, Bismarck Owusu Norte is the Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana and is joining me live for more on this. Bismarck, welcome to the show. Why are we still unable to produce enough tomatoes locally to feed ourselves and reduce dependence on cross-border supply?
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. I think that this situation that is happening is not something that's surprising. For me, it's a symptom of a neglected system. Wow. Just find that as a country, we appear not to be learning lessons from our past. We are actually thinking that in some few years' time, it will not be enough for the country to rely large on import of food like food.
Bismarck, I'm struggling to hear you. If you can kindly reposition yourself so we can continue the conversation.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. So I was making a point that these are symptoms of a system where we neglected the sector and system value for a while, because we know that we should not put in place sustainable mechanisms. We can't keep on going to have cross-border trade for produce that we have the capacity to produce. If you look at the tomato value chain, and even to an extent, the onion value chain, even pepper, the requirements for the production of those crops in Ghana, the atmospheric and the climatic conditions are reasonably favorable for us to be able to produce this throughout the year. But we've not put in place the systems to ensure that sustainable production. And that's why we are where we are. One, we know because tomato is a vegetable, it needs special treatment, it needs water.
Right.
So, as a country, if we are dedicated to improving our irrigation systems, we should be able to produce these tomatoes all year round. If you come to Ghana now, we have just less than 10% of lands under irrigation. So meaning, when it comes to those who are producing tomatoes in the dry season, you have less than 10% of the farmers who are into tomato production doing the tomatoes. So it means that aside the major season, for instance, when you come to the south, which will start probably from next month up to June, July, during that period where the farmers go into production, they expect that by July, August, we should have some tomato in the system. And then for those in the north, from June, July, when they start their production, it goes to around September, October when they start their harvesting. So it means that from that period until the next planting period, we are not doing tomatoes anyway, aside from those few isolated cases. So that means that the bulk of the consumption that Ghanaians will need, we do not have them locally. So what do? We have to rely on Burkina. But meanwhile, the Burkina model of ensuring that there are irrigation structures, like there are classes of irrigation sites across the country is there. They have a system where farmers are able to access good seeds. They have a proper aggregation and market supply system where when they produce enough, they know they can store them and wait for other players to come for them. We have not done that as a country. And it's sad that we've had this conversation over the years. I remember when the previous government came, we went to meet them, the farmers, and we outlined clearly what should be done as a country so that we're able to stop the importation of tomatoes. But unfortunately, we pay lip service to everything as a country. So for us, we are not surprised of what is going on. We just hope that the remarks by the current government and the minister is also not one of a knee-jerk reaction, just to avoid the situation. But there is a sustainable plan in place. How do we ensure that within the next 2 to 3 years, we've been able to put up or increase our irrigation landscape across the country, where we know that farmers can generally do all-year farming? How do we ensure that the tomato variety, the seed varieties that our farmers need, now their cost is is quite expensive, so a lot of the local farmers cannot afford them. How do we create a system where the farmers can afford this kind of seed varieties? And then our market linkages. Currently, as you mentioned in your report, when you go to the north, farmers are crying over their pepper. Now, when farmers consistently suffer these post-harvest losses, these are disincentives for them to plant it for the next planting season.
Right.
So you realize that you might not be having the same number of farmers going to plant for the next planting season. So in effect, you are reducing the productivity of the farmers. So we need to put in place this mechanism and ensure that the farmer is incentivized to go into sustainable production, knowing that when he produces, there is a market system that can absorb it. He's able to recover the cost of production, and is incentivized to go into another production. That creates the production cycle to ensure that we are self-sufficient in our production. But until we do that, the situation is going to persist. The current shortage, we must still fill it until there's a next planting season before we might get some improves. So it's unfortunate that we are where we are, but it is what it is, because as a country, we pay so much lip service to almost everything.
Right. Bismarck, do you see this current shortage as merely a temporal disruption, or does it expose deeper structural weaknesses in our irrigation systems, for example?
Until this incident happened in Burkina, no one would have predicted that we might have a shortage, because apparently traders were going to bring in. Now, what even happens if there is an insurgency and Burkina decides to close their borders permanently, at least for 3 months? What happens to us? So you can't even predict. So for us, it's not really about thinking of whether the situation might be worse or not. It's about which systems are we putting in place locally to ensure that within the next planting season, we don't go through this kind of scenarios that we are having. So for us, that should be the main focus of the country. How do we ensure self-sufficiency in the production of tomatoes? How do we ensure that in the production of onions? How do we ensure in the production of rice? I think for us, that is the major thing that we should focus on. And not really, because for the externalities, anything could happen. We can't predict what might happen. And as long as we still rely on these countries, once there is a shock in the system, it might affect us. And as that comes, even we have advocated that one of the key things that we need to do to even cure some of these emergencies that are on plan for is to have this agricultural development fund. So a fund where in moments of emergencies, we can quickly dip our hands into those funds and put in place those emergency structures to avoid them. But unfortunately, we have to talk, and it appears that we don't have any insight. But I'm really hopeful that this should be the cornerstone for us to transform our agricultural sector and ensure that for the kind of produce that we have the ability, we should be able to put in place systems to ensure that. And I really hope that this is the last time that we should have that particular situation.
Let's look at it from the farmer's point of view. What specific gaps in policy or investment are limiting year-round vegetable production?
Yeah, so for year-round, as I mentioned, let me just give you an example. If you come to Greater Accra, there are several farming communities that are into the production of tomatoes. Aside from the few isolated ones, which are into irrigation, which are being less than 5%, the rest of them are not into this form of irrigation. So when you go there now, there is no planting going on. Probably in the month of March, when we start experiencing some rains, that's when they start doing their land preparation. So for now, there's nothing going on. If you go to the north, for instance, apart from those who are into irrigation, so for instance, those at Borga who are into the production of pepper, apart from those into irrigation, there's no activity going on anywhere. So it means that until the next planting season starts, where the rain starts, there's literally no production going on. So if you do not cure that particular constraint of the farmers, then there's no way you can make the farmer productive. Because you've now reduced the farmer to just a one-season farmer. And that's not what is happening in Burkina Faso. In Burkina Faso, they are doing all year-round farming because there's always availability of water. But they are not doing that. So until that system is created, the irrigation for wealth program that this government has promised, until we see some actual action, the one village, one dam that the government promised, and it became like a white elephant. If that program or policy had even worked to an extent...
Bismarck, apologies for cutting you, but we have to go to Kumasi right now, where the IGP is currently speaking. We'll continue the conversation right after this.
That we make life uncomfortable for criminal elements in the country. As a result, no matter how far they run or how much they hide, we will continue to pursue them, to dismantle their activities and bring them to justice. On the 10th of February 2026, I received the unfortunate news of a robbery incident that occurred at Ohim Tego Junction, where one person was shot and his Toyota Hilux vehicle snatched from him. We soon learned of the identity of the victim, Mr. Andrews Amakwa, who sadly passed on at the hospital where he had been sent for medical attention. I'm happy to announce that we have arrested 4 suspects, including 3 members of the gang that was responsible for the attack. A 4th suspect, believed to be the gang leader, died from gunshot wounds sustained during the operation. As we always do when such cases reported, I immediately constituted a team comprising the Ashanti Regional Commander, the Regional Intelligence Team, the Anti-Robbery Unit, and the Cyber Vetting Team of the CID headquarters to immediately commence investigation. Upon following several leads during the course of our investigation, we had our first breakthrough on the 18th February 2026 with the arrest of suspect Akwesi Menu, who was found in possession of a mobile phone belonging to the deceased. Suspect Akwesi Menu was subsequently put before the Asokwa Circuit Court 2 on 20th February 2026 on the charge of possession of stolen property and remanded into police custody to reappear on the 5th March 2026. Further investigation and covert intelligence operations led to the arrest of a 2nd suspect, Bashiru Tanko, from his hideout at Atonso High School Junction in Kumasi on the 19th February. Following the arrest of Tanko, we intensified efforts across several locations, and after days of sustained operations, 2 additional suspects, Kwadwo Amposan and Emmanuel Kwame Apia, were arrested on 21st and 22nd February 2026 at Vireso near Accra and Danyame Soldier Barracks, Kumasi respectively. Suspect Eric Antwi Duku, who sustained gunshot wounds during the operation, has passed on. Our investigation further established that this criminal syndicate, led by deceased suspect Eric Antwi Duku, specialized in the snatching of pickup and Land Cruiser vehicles, particularly black and ash color ones, which they sold to a contact at Paga. The gang also have contacts with some persons at Ofinso and in Dubai, as well as contacts with some Goro boys at the DVLA who facilitate the preparation of fake vehicle documents for them. The syndicate have been linked to similar robberies at Takwa, Kumasi, and other parts of the Ashanti region. The regional commander will share further details. It's worth noting that this syndicate has been on the wanted list of the Western Central Regional Police Command at Takwa following a series of incidents involving them. The modus operandi of the syndicate involves identifying and monitoring their target victims and following them until they get the opportunity to strike, and when the targets resist or refuse to hand over the vehicle to them, they resort to firing their weapon. Our investigation also established that after successful operations, the gang leader, Eric Antwi Duku, often travels with his wife to Dubai to cool off. Interestingly, the gang were preparing to leave Kumasi today for another operation at Takwa, but they ran out of luck when we got them arrested. Before I conclude, for the regional commander to give us further details, I wish to sincerely express my condolences to the bereaved family on behalf of the entire police service. I also wish to highly commend the various teams that work on this operation, as well as members of the public who assisted us with very critical information. Your collective efforts will go a long way towards giving the family closure and ensuring justice is served. I can't sit down without expressing our profound gratitude to His Excellency the President for equipping the service with much needed logistics, which continue to make such police response operations possible. Once again, I wish to call on the general public to support our operations by sharing credible information and reporting suspicious persons and activities to the police. To the criminals out there, take note of this. We will leave no stones unturned. By every legal means possible, we will continue to come after you. We will pursue you, arrest you, and bring you to justice. That is a promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Christian Teteyono. The criminals out there, be rest assured the police will come after you. They will leave no stones unturned. Thank you very much once again, the Inspector General of Police. We shall now invite the Regional Police Commander, DCOP Mr. Atta Oseakoto, to sit down, brief the media on the arrest made. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Inspector General of Police, members of the Police Management Board, colleagues, senior officers, members of the media, distinguished guests. On behalf of the Ghana Police Service and Ashanti Regional Police Command, I wish to provide further details on investigations into the robbery and murder of Mr. Andrews Amankwa, which occurred on the 10th of February 2026 at Ohim Amanfrom in Kumasi. Following the incident, the Inspector General of Police activated a coordinated intelligence-led operation involving the Regional Police Intelligence Directorate, the Cyber Vetting and Enforcement Team, and the CID Anti-Armed Robbery Unit. Under his strategic leadership and guidance, through sustained surveillance, technical intelligence, and targeted operations, we have successfully dismantled a very dangerous carjacking syndicate known as the Dukun Syndicate. Between 18th and 22nd February 2026, 4 key members of this syndicate were arrested in separate intelligence-led operations across Kumasi and its environs. One suspect sustained gunshot wounds during an operation and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. On 18 February 2026, Akwesi Menu, a 47-year-old farmer, was arrested for unlawful possession of deceased victim's Samsung mobile phone. His arrest provided the initial breakthrough in the investigations. On the 19th February 2026, Bashir Tanko, alias TK, age 33, was arrested at Atunsu, a suburb of Kumasi. Investigations revealed his prior involvement in car snatching activities in Takwa and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Intelligence, however, suggests he was sidelined from the most recent fatal operations due to an internal financial dispute within the syndicate. On 21st February 2026, Kwejo Amponsan, alias Kamakazi, age 35, was arrested at Kereso near Buankra. His interrogation provided a critical intelligence linking the syndicate to multiple violent robberies involving Toyota Hilux vehicles in Kumasi. On 22nd February 2026, at 11 p.m., the alleged syndicate leader, Eric Ndriduku, age 42, sustained gunshot wounds during an operation and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. His body has been deposited at the morgue for preservation and autopsy. Items recovered from him include a Bruni Mod 84 pistol, 8 rounds of live ammunition, a tracking detection device, a Ford vehicle documents, and a Toyota Corolla S belonging to the deceased suspect. On 22nd February 2026 at 11:30 p.m., Emmanuel Kwame appeared, alias Tola, age 38, was also arrested at Denyame, Kumasi. Investigations indicate that he acted as the syndicate's driver during the fatal Ohim Amanfrom robbery. Investigations have established that the syndicate specialized in targeting Toyota Hilux vehicles. The group conducted prowl surveillance on victims and in recent operations escalated to the use of lethal force to facilitate vehicle theft. Preliminary findings link the core suspects to the Ohim Amanfum robbery on the 10th February 2026, during which Mr. Andrew Samankwa was shot and killed in his Toyota Hilux, number GN6647-25, stolen. A separate robbery at Kronum, where a victim was fatally shot, and a Toyota Hilux belonging to the Ghana National Association of Teachers was stolen. The suspects have admitted to multiple robbery operations across Takwa and Kumasi, and have provided intelligence regarding the movement of stolen vehicles to the northern border corridor. Confessed robberies incidents in Takwa. The suspect further confessed to the following vehicle thefts. So I will go through. On 25th January 2026, at Anglo Gold, Takwa, he snatched Toyota Hilux registration number VD8080-25. On 9th February 2026, at Bobobo, Takwa, Toyota Hilux unregistered was also snatched. On 7th November 2025, at Achampion, Toyota Land Cruiser registration number AD102-25. On the 8th November 2025, at New Atuabo, Toyota Land Cruiser registration number GT2036-25. On 12th October 2025, at Tamso, Takwa, Land Cruiser Trooper registration number GE4447-25. On the 5th October 2025, at Achampem, Toyota Land Cruiser registration number GE373-25. On the 7th September 2025, at Samahu, Toyota Land Cruiser registration number GV66-24. On the 15th April 2025, at Takwa, Toyota Land Cruiser PC, registration number GS1845-23. And on the 10th April 2025, at Achampem, Toyota Land Cruiser Pickup, registration number GT4688-24. The recovered firearm is currently undergoing forensic and ballistic examination to determine its linkage to various crime scenes. Investigations are ongoing to identify and arrest additional accomplices, including individuals involved in the disposal of stolen vehicles and the preparation of forged documentation. The suspects are currently in police custody and will soon be arraigned before court. I must iterate that these suspects have been on the police wanted list of the Central Regional Police Command, but they escape arrest anytime there is an attempt to apprehend them. The Ghana Police Service remains resolute in dismantling violent criminal networks operating within the Ashanti and beyond. Criminal elements who threaten public safety will be pursued relentlessly and brought to justice. We encourage members of the public to continue volunteering credible information to support our crime-fighting efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Ashanti Regional Police Commander, for that brief of the arrests made and other operations that the police have conducted. So thank you so much. We have read the whole briefing to a close. You, Milianum, is a for Episania, regional police commander, a Kayano. They were no free a year, 3 media houses, and the mechanism of Momoka and Kasa. And some of them say, Mobefa, sir.
What you saw a while ago were live visuals from Kumasi in the Ashanti region, where the IGP was addressing the media about some notorious criminals they have nabbed in that particular region. We'll bring you more of that developing story in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, though, the Electricity Company of Ghana says it has restored power to all power consumers in the Ashanti region following a torrid weekend of intermittent power outages. The region over the weekend experienced a power glitch following a high-voltage cable fault that led to a blast at the Ridge substation, serving as a primary bulk supply point. Another blast, followed by a thick smoke, was also detected in Ajuso after third-party interference, necessitating an emergency shutdown of power to Ajuso and its environs to allow prompt investigations and to prevent further damage. Ohemi Interior has more in this report.
The Company of Ghana say the blast interrupted the interconnected line between Station A and Station B at Adwato, effectively shutting down several key primary substations. They included the Adwato, Ejinase, Afari, and Agogo substations, depriving several customers of power. Engineers of ECG worked throughout the weekend to locate and repair the faults. Here is the manager of network maintenance at Ashanti Sub-Transmission, Engineer James Mersan Yevunya.
And this fault affected our interconnected line from Station A to Station B at Adwato. And so that rendered the entire Adwato substation off. It affected a substation at Ejinase, Agogo, and Afari. And so after several hours of investigation, we noticed that there was a blast in the underground cable, the tunnel there, and that is literally what caused the fault. We have to stay throughout the night and fix the fault. But because it is our main 33 line that feeds these main substations, it affected a very large number of customers. But thankfully, we managed to restore supply to customers on Sunday. That one too, there was some vent, also thick smoke from our substations. And so we got what we needed in order to save the situation. We have to go investigate and then fix the situation. So for Ajuso, we have to transfer them onto a different line. Yes, so it was just a short transfer we did.
Well, ECG has assured of commitment to customer care, noting that while some technical failures are unpredictable, the company strives to communicate both emergency faults and plant maintenance. Here is Engineer Yevunya again.
These are machines, these are cables. Sometimes you have a loose contact, sometimes you have like I said, a blast. And so they happen. That is why we also have constant maintenance of our system. We are always there to delight the customers. After it is we are there for them. Some of these things are unpredictable. Our PR is also here. When there is an emergency, we put it out there. When we have a planned maintenance, we also put it out there. Fortunately, we have a ring network, so sometimes we try as much as possible to also feed them from other sources.
Let's still stay in the Ashanti region and speak to my colleague Ohemi Interior for more on this. Ohemi, welcome to the program. Can you confirm to us if indeed power has been restored to major parts of the region?
Yes, to some extent, but I will say that we still have pockets of outages in the region, even as we speak. For instance, in our office area here, at Abidjan and parts of Mazima, Bomso, and its environs. We are still experiencing intermittent power outages. We still don't have power yet. And I have been monitoring from other areas apart from the Abidjan here. For instance, in the Ejuso area, which came up over the weekend as one of the areas that was hardly hit by this power outage. A while ago, I got the information that there was a fault at Accra inland port area there, which has caused a substantial part of the Ejuso operational area to be without power. So we are talking about Nobuem, we are talking about Yampompo, Buankra, Adadientem, and all these areas going without power. And it's quite challenging, especially at the time that many residents thought that the era of doing so was over, just to be hit by these pockets of outages. I have been combing, both from the power sector players, Gridco, ECG, and VRE. The indication is that all is not clear as we speak as to who is to be blamed for this. But for ECG, the understanding is that they still have pockets of faults within the ECG system, which they have been attending to with this regular maintenance exercises.
Right.
So as and when these are identified, ECG attends to them. But behind the scenes, my sources close to Gridco also do indicate that there's a Gridco box supply point to ECG, which has been suspended for some time now. So my sources are unable to tell me when this box supply point will be put, in the mainstream to supply and also transmit power to residents of Kumasi. So it's a bit, quite dicey talking about when these outages could be resolved outrightly. But for ECG, there are two main issues that came up. The blast at the range box power box supply point, and that at Ejuso has been resolved. Right. But yes, still there are areas without power.
Right, Ohimi Teria, thank you very much. Also joining me this afternoon is Benjamin Obinentry. He's the Public Relations Officer with the ECG as well. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We're told by my colleague Ohimi Teria that power has been restored. What have you identified as the cause of the fluctuations beyond what we already know? Do we have Benjamin on the line? If you can kindly unmute your microphone so we can hear you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to our cherished viewers as well. Yes, as Ohimi indicated, over the weekend, the cause of the outage had to do with an explosion, more or less like a termination failure or a cable fault in a layman's term. So as we speak, yesterday around by 4:00 p.m., our sub-transmission cable team had done with the work and customers are experiencing stable power supply. But what happened today was that we had an outage on at our rig box supply point, this one towards the KTI substation. So that is why Ohimi said the Lab FM building, that's the one around the Abidjan extension, Bomsu Maxima, that enclave, they are off, including the Roma Hill, Amakum, that enclave. But as we speak, our cable team just informed that they are done with the repair work and very soon we'll be connecting the cable to the grid in no time as well. So that is
what time should they expect power to be restored?
Well, I think it's 4:09. They are done with the cable work. So let's say within the next 30 minutes, they'll hang the cable and then very soon we'll start loading the cable and then we'll energize the line to ensure our customers get stable power supply as well. But beyond that, that is the major fault that we have within that enclave. But should there be any localized fault over there? Because we have instances where we have these third-party electricians tampering within our network, i.e. the transformer, they removing the fuse and then linking it with substandard materials. So for that one, we always encourage our customers that you call us on the 0302-611-611. But all the major faults that occurred over the weekend and this morning, we have repaired them as we speak.
There are concerns that Dumso is back in the Ashanti region. People say they are tired of the explanation that the electricity company of Ghana keeps giving anytime the light goes off. Is Dumso back in the Ashanti region?
Well, in fact, forgive me, initially, once we started the conversation, what I want to say is that, last year when power was stable in Ashanti region, even beginning of the year when power was stable, we had our stakeholders, our customers commending us and even saying that power supply has been stable. So once we've had a challenge within the last 1 to 2 weeks, it's only fair that they come out saying that they want answers. But first of all, I want to apologize to them for what has happened over the weekend, the last few weeks. It's 1 to 2 weeks. We want to apologize to them. We are not explaining that we are defending what has happened, but we want them to know that it's not Dumso as you put out there, because no one will say Dumso. It has to do with the fact that there is a generation shortfall or another, but that is not what we're experiencing. In fact, as we speak, the Ashanti region is now one of the major generation hubs we have in the country as well in terms of generation. Just beginning this year, the Honorable Sector Minister, Honorable Dr. John Jinapo, came to the region to commission the first phase of the AXA plan. So as we speak, AXA is supplying the grid with 123 megawatts. Last when we said by April, to commission the phase 2, which means the entire 205 megawatts will be on the national grid as well. Senate is also expected to add some 230 megawatts to the national grid, together with the Ameri plant that is running already by VRA in the Ashanti region. So as we speak, we have a lot of redundancies and then excess capacity in the grid as well. So the idea that there is Dumso because of generation shortfall or load shedding, we want our customers to know is that there is nothing like that. Though we admit there are some pockets of outages which occurred over the weekend, which as we speak, we have resolved all the major outages that occurred.
Right. Benjamin Obinentry is one of the public relations officers with the Electricity Company of Ghana in the Ashanti region. Let's head to Parliament now, where the minority in the House is accusing the acting Deputy Chief Executive of Cocoa Board in charge of Finance and Administration, Ato Boateng, of a conflict of interest in the discharge of his duties. According to the group, Cocoa Board is deliberately depriving the produce buying company of funds, while Mr. Boateng is allegedly diverting resources to keep Atlas Commodities afloat. Addressing the media in Parliament, the Member of Parliament for Old Tafo constituency, Vincent Ekowasifwa, said the alleged conflict of interest situation is undermining the operations of PBC.
Public records show that Mr. Boateng previously served as the Chief Executive Officer of Atlas Commodities Limited in 2018. And I have in my hands here a document from the Registrar General's Department that shows who has been the owner and the directors of the Atlas Commodities Limited. They are all here with me. There are documents that I also shared on my Facebook wall. Today, that same person occupies one of the most powerful financial and administrative offices within Cocoa Board, the institution mandated under law to regulate cocoa buying companies. Under the Ghana Cocoa Board Act, Cocoa Board is a regulator. It is not a competitor. You cannot be a referee and be a player at the same time. You cannot be a regulator and be a competitor at the same time. Article 284 of the 1992 Constitution clearly prohibits a public officer from placing himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with his official duties. The standard or the threshold that has been established by the 1992 Constitution is very clear. There needs not be a wrongdoing, but the likelihood of you positioning yourself that ordinary bystanders can see through it and say.
That's the MP for Old Tafo, Vincent Ekowasifwa, who further called for a full criminal investigation into the matter.
Cocoa farmers are sacrificing daily to sustain the economy. Regulatory leadership must not create even the appearance of benefiting from the same system they supervise. You cannot benefit from the same system that you yourself are supervising. You cannot create a system whereby you will deprive the state from operating to be able to earn margins, to be able to give to the state, so that the state can also pay its workers, and direct or indirectly siphon those monies into the pockets of an individual. Which individual is Mr. Ato Boateng? As a minority, we demand the following. We demand a full criminal investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We demand a constitutional conflict of interest determination by SHRAJ. We also demand a forensic audit of warehouse registrations and cocoa movement records. The minority is also demanding for a full disclosure from Cocoa Board, national security, and relevant authorities. We are also demanding that action in accordance with the law if wrongdoing is established. If there is no wrongdoing, investigation will clear the air. But if wrongdoing is confirmed, accountability must follow.
Let's stay a while in Parliament, where Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has intensified his scathing criticism of the John Mahama administration for imposing hardship on cocoa farmers by slashing cocoa prices by 1,000 cedis. The move, according to him, has imposed more hardship on cocoa farmers, insisting that the Kufuor administration has one of the best records in protecting cocoa farmers. He made the remarks during his engagement with the Young Commons Reform at the University of Cape Coast over the weekend. The following report has more.
The minority leader's engagement with the UCC chapter of the Young Commons Forum, a pro-NPP student group, is one of the series of similar engagement in tertiary campuses across the country. The program provided a platform to instill the values of the Dankwa Buzia Dombo ideology, extol the achievements of the Akufo-Addo administrations, but to also take on key development challenges facing the country. The minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin, in his address, took on the John Mahama government again for slashing cocoa prices, comparing the move to the cocoa and social protection policies undertaken by the two previous NPP governments.
The cocoa sector reforms and free input support, not the one that they've reduced the producer price. Omatiso, almost 10 million. Cocoa Equafor, almost 10 million. The Kufuor administration undertook major cocoa sector reforms, including the introduction of free inputs, such as fertilizers, and improved seedlings to cocoa farmers. The critic can be loud and say all they can about the free SHS, but by far, without argument, it stands as the most emblematic social intervention of the Akufo-Addo administration. And without subjecting it to any further argument, the most consequential social intervention in Ghana's Fourth Republic. In center-right terms, free SHS is best understood not as a consumption spending, but as human capital formation on a national scale with long-term returns, in productivity, innovation, and social cohesion.
He called on the John Mahama government to halt what he describes as increasing rhetoric and implement its flagship programs to create jobs for Ghanaians.
The past 1 year, we have seen a government that believes in rhetorics, that talks more than it works. It promised the people of Ghana 1 job, 3 shifts, and called it 24-hour economy. It promised women banking. It promised to increase the producer price of cocoa to 6,000. Today, unemployment is on the rise. Today, this government has failed to implement its own flagship initiative, the initiative of 1 job 3 shifts. Today, it has rather created a bureaucracy for its so-called 24-hour economy. The women banking has also not seen the light of day. It is time for our government to move away from the political rhetorics and focus on the core duties of governance, development, job creation, and the rule of law.
It is clear that the minority will not back down from holding government feet to fire until it makes a U-turn and restore the cocoa prices and also fulfill its campaign promises to Ghanaians. James Abeji, JoyNews.
The pause returns after this break. Don't go anywhere. Hello again. A 30-year-old accountant at Ghana's leading teaching hospital, Kolebu, is battling for her life after doctors recommended she will need at least $60,000 to go through a surgery to treat a case of blood cancer. For 2 years, Gifty Stevens has been through several treatments that have drained her family of thousands of cedis. Now, doctors say unless she raises this amount and gets this procedure done in India as soon as possible, her life will slip away. In our JoyNews Aid series, journalist Justice Baidu has visited her, and here's his report.
If life were a straightforward journey where you had everything happen as you wished, Gifty Stevens will be her bubbly self at her job, working as a procurement personnel at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Those who know her say she is affable, kind, and funny. Her days away from work are spent as a Sunday school teacher in the Methodist Church. Then in 2023, all of that will change. Gifty will be diagnosed of Hodgkin's lymphoma, a rare blood cancer that affects the human lymphatic system. This condition shows painless swelling of lymph nodes in the neck, armpit, and the groin. Gifty has fever, sweats profusely at night, and has lost weight drastically. She wants to speak and ask for help. She just cannot.
Oh no, you're restlessness. I can't eat really well. I can't eat so full. Quite afraid of something. Get ahead.
In the 3 years since, her family, friends, and all well-wishers have put in all they can to help Gifty get back his health and stay alive. By her sickbed, she's kept company by her beloved auntie, Joyce Stevens, with whom she has lived since she was a little girl. Gifty is looking on as her life slips away. But she can be saved. In December 2025, doctors at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital referred her for a procedure in India that could possibly bring her back to normal. The cost of that, $60,000, is what is standing between Gifty's life and death.
Now the stage I am, also undergo a stem cell transplant. But the money will be so huge that I saw from my family can take the burden alone. So we're very grateful if you come through to help us. Yeah. That's all I can say for me. I don't want to talk much.
For Gifty, like many Ghanaians suffering from such chronic ailment, the clock is ticking. Each painful attempt to breathe in and breathe out, she looks on in anxiety that some way, somehow, she is able to hold her life back from slipping through her fingers. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Accra.
Homes swallowed by the sea, fishing stopped by fear, and families pushed closer to displacement. In Ghana's Ketu South municipality, coastal communities are slowly sinking as tidal waves advance inland. But a new sea defense project offers fragile hope. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports from Sugakope in today's Climate Evidence.
By the time the waves retreat, there is little left to save in Salakope and nearby coastal communities in Ketu South. Homes have been destroyed, canoes lie broken, families are scattered. For 33-year-old Ruben Ativi Bativo, the sea was the only place for him.
I did not continue my education, so I work on the sea.
But even that work is no longer certain.
When the tidal waves hit our shore, all the canoes could no longer go to sea. So we moved to Adina to fish.
Fishing is the only source of income for many young people here. Now they travel to neighboring towns just to earn a little money if they can. Not far away, Yekwe Gali sits on the ground with a child on her lap. Even here, she says, it's not safe.
Sometimes we are cooking and the sea splashes into the fire and puts it out.
Her shelter is shared with rodents.
A mouse even bit my hand. Sometimes all I can do is to cry. What I need most is food. My grandchildren also need to go back to school.
Standing on the shoreline, community leader Gideon Tete points to what used to be home.
The community from where I stand is far into the sea now. That's about 500 meters away from this place. That is where the community used to be, with a lot of houses, a lot of occasion ground or event ground, a lot of things that we have.
Homes, event grounds, and even the community's borehole are all gone.
This is the same place we get our borehole water. Yes, borehole water.
Togwe Tete ordered all fishing to stop.
I told them not to venture, and we drew all our nets from the sea. We are fishing no more. And the most disadvantaged one, we can migrate to, say, Agaveji, Blakusu, Adina, and fish. But the problem is, during the heat of the destruction, our canoes, including the machine, have been destroyed.
Salakope is not alone. Across Ghana's southeastern coast, from Keta to Adina, more than 10,000 structures have been destroyed. Experts say the sea moves inland by about 2 meters every year. Changing weather patterns is driving stronger waves and rising sea levels. But human activity such as deforestation and unplanned construction has made the coast more vulnerable. But now residents say hope has returned. In July 2025, Phase 2 of the Blekusu Coastal Protection Project began. It will protect 8 kilometers of coastline, including Salakope.
I must say that I am impressed about what is going on here, because I've been receiving payment certificates in the office. I've been asking myself, is the work really going on like the way these payment certificates keep coming? And I decided that today I'll pay a visit to ensure that whatever payment certificate that comes to my office to be signed, the actual work has been done. And truly, I've come to see that the work is really going on.
The project includes sea defense, shoreline restoration, fish markets, and storage facilities.
The whole construction is supposed to be about 37 groins with about 220 meters interval for this 8-kilometer stretch. So if within this short period, they've been able to start working on 6 drawings and looking at the work that is going on here, looking at the machinery, looking at the quarry, looking at the staff here, I think they are on track. They are even ahead of time. So I'm quite impressed with what is going on here. But still, we will encourage them. Not that I'm here encouraging them and then now they will know minister came here, so everything is fine. No.
A report by Mohamed Nuruddin.
This story is brought to you by JoyNews in partnership with CDK in Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from CLARE R4I Opportunities Fund.
After nearly a decade of neglect, an E-Block school in Ashaiman is back on track, nearing completion. Member of Parliament for the area, Ernest Nogbe, says accommodation now remains a pressing concern. This has resulted in only a third of students posted to the Ashaiman Technical Institute reporting for admission. Tema correspondent Kwame Yanka reports.
After 8 years of abandonment, the long-stalled E-Block project in Ashaiman is finally nearing completion. The school facility, an initiative launched during President John Mahamed's first term to expand access to secondary education, was left unattended by the previous administration despite mounting pressure from school authorities and students. Now, Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, says the current government has revived the project with construction about 90% complete ahead of a March deadline. The technical school, focused on engineering and practical training, is expected to boost skill development in the artisan-driven community.
The authorities, the management of the technical and vocational schools were always on my neck to make sure that we create some environment for the students to move from where they were learning so that they will also have a very conducive environment to learn. So when we came to power in January, I had to speak to Honorable Haruna Idrisu and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama himself, who directed that Honorable Haruna Idrisu to make sure that the project is completed by March this year. As we speak now, the project is almost 90% complete, and the contractor is still on site, and I'm hoping and praying that by March, the project will be completed for the student to use. So far, so good. I'm happy to see the completion of this project. And when this project is completed, I'll make sure His Excellency John Dramani Mahama himself comes to commission it and hand it over to the people of Ashaiman.
Accommodation for students, particularly those traveling from distant communities, remains a major challenge. Ernest Nogbe believes provision of hostel facilities would help ease the burden and improve access to the school.
The number of students that were placed in Ashaiman Technical School, Vocational Technical School, were more than the people who came, or the students who came for admission as we speak now. So we really need accommodation. I'll speak to the minister himself once again, and then the GET fund, so that they can give us some, there's some number of hostels for both male and female. We have land space. We have enough land space that we can site this project on. This one will be an appeal, and I'll make sure, I'll take it up as a project to make sure we get a hostel facility for the school.
when you look at the school, the design of the school, they are into engineering programs. And this engineering program, if all things being equal, this project is completed and everything, it will be one of the best schools in Ghana, because we are not into management, we are not into economics, we are into pure engineering.
School authorities are hopeful government to complete the project on schedule so it can fully serve its purpose of shaping the country's future workforce.
The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Business and Integrated Development Studies, Professor Emmanuel Kanchebi, has announced that the university has gotten financial support to complete all abandoned and completed projects. The university, since its inception, has been challenged with inadequate infrastructure to accommodate its growing population. Rafiq Salam reports from Oa.
Speaking at the seal matriculation ceremony of the university, Professor Emmanuel Kanchebi formally highlighted the institution's recent name change from the Simon Diedon Dombo University of Business and Integrated Development Studies (SDD UBITS) to the University of Business and Integrated Development Studies UBITS. Professor Emmanuel Derebele urged the first men and women to take ownership of this transition and work deliberately to build and grow the reputation of the newly branded institution. Addressing the pressing need for facilities to match the university's growing population, the Vice-Chancellor revealed that management is finalizing arrangements for a massive prefabricated classroom capable of accommodating 1,000 students at a go.
We are yet to conclude arrangements for a prefabricated classroom block which can take 1,000 students at a time. And we are hoping that we will be able to conclude negotiations on that as part of this special initiative.
He noted that whilst infrastructure projects at the university currently are few, he is of the firm conviction that the ongoing and incoming projects will result significantly in changing the lives of the students at the university.
This initiative
Well, that's it for the polls this evening. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with News Prime. My name is Kenneth. Jesse, have a good evening.